More than 107 days after the U.S. began its war with Iran, the first concrete steps to bring the conflict to an end were taken over the weekend. Let's bring in our Reggie Cecchini from Washington with the latest. Reggie, what do we know about this memorandum of understanding?
Well, Jaden, we know that this came together very quickly on Sunday and was risked being derailed in the hour before because there had been a skirmish again between Israel and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. But ultimately, we heard from the American president, from the Pakistani prime minister, and from Iranian officials that this memorandum had been reached. And essentially what it appears, because we don't have the details of it just yet printed, is that sometime this week, likely by Friday, according to Donald Trump, the Strait of Hormuz is set to be reopened in full without any tolls, and that there will be a lifting of the American naval blockade, which has been a key demand here from the Iranians. And we're also hearing out of Europe this morning from the French president that various European nations, including France, the United Kingdom, and the Netherlands, will play a role in helping to ensure that there is some kind of safe navigation through the strait once it has been declared safe, because we do know that there had been allegations that the Iranians were laying mines in this crucial waterway in the lead up to the war and potentially during the war as well. All of this is not to say that risk does not still exist, and most experts have said that it will be up to shipping companies to determine whether or not it is safe to be able to pass through. What this memorandum of understanding doesn't do is deal with issues that are much bigger than just safe passageway, including nuclear material and ongoing issues surrounding funding and Iran's economy. Those are to be discussed at a later time.
Yeah, let's stay on that for a second, Reggie. The nuclear issue, which the U.S. used as the basis for going to the war, seems to be shelved for the moment. How will it tie into the sanctions relief?
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, this is an important point here, is that the entire reason that the United States, as it went to war, is because it was trying to prevent Iran from being able to obtain a nuclear weapon. And the president over the last several weeks has been saying either that America was going to go into Iran and take out its enriched uranium, or it would be disposed of some way within Iran. This memorandum of understanding sets forward a 60-day period for negotiations where the nuclear issue is going to be brought up. But Iran has come out to say, look, we are not going to take part in any nuclear discussion unless you unlock and unfreeze some, $20 billion in Iranian assets that are being held around the world. The United States has said no money until there has been a progress in conversations. Iranian says no progress in conversations unless there is some money here. So it goes to show that there is still a significant gap in how this is going to go forward. And there could be potential criticism here from Americans to the president to say, look, if we went to war in the first place and 13 U.S. soldiers died in this conflict because the nuclear material was the biggest concern, why is it not being dealt with now? It's also worth pointing out, Jaden, that the last time there was a deal with Iran, with the JCPOA done under the Obama administration, that took many years to be able to kind of hammer out. The Trump administration is saying that they anticipate having everything done in 60 days.
Is there a risk anything derails this potential peace deal, Reggie?
Well, I mean, look, if the Strait of Hormuz is not set to open until Friday, there is, kind of any risk here that something could go wrong. We saw on the weekend that there was an uptick in fighting between Israel and Lebanon that potentially was going to throw this all out the window. We've heard from the Americans that this ceasefire is going to go into place on all fronts. Hezbollah has not fired any rockets into northern Israel since this was announced over the weekend. But again, 5 days is a lot of time for something to potentially go wrong here, especially if the Iranians are pushing back to argue that there are pieces of this MOU that they simply do not have in their hands yet, like the money. So there is a lot to kind of wait and see what takes place over the next 5 days. But this is going to give potentially the markets and the rest of the world a bit of a calmer foot to walk on, understanding that for the first time in several months, we may be looking at the end of this escalation. The question is, again, what happens over the next week? What happens over the next 60 days? Because what we don't have an understanding of is enforcement mechanisms for both the memorandum of understanding and what happens afterwards.
And we'll be watching closely. Thanks for this breakdown. Our Reggie Cecchini joining us from Washington.